So often, when a dismissive avoidant starts to embark in a relationship, they have these hidden lies that they're telling themselves about love and connection and about the future of what it even means. But avoidants don't even realize the vast majority of the time that they are, in fact, lying to themselves because their beliefs feel like the truth. But what they truly are is sabotage in disguise. So let's break down the 5 biggest lies your typical dismissive avoidant brings into a relationship and when these lies start to take place and unfold, and what some of the actual truths are instead. So number 1, dismissive avoidants definitely have this big lie that they tell themselves, which is if I get too close, I will lose myself. And what ends up taking place here is they generally fear deeply being trapped in a relationship or being engulfed by somebody. And this is because in their upbringing, they usually experience what we call childhood emotional neglect, which leaves a child who deeply needed attunement and closeness from parents or caregivers, essentially instead feeling like there was just a relationship with a certain set of demands from their parent or parents and even siblings where they really couldn't get needs met in the way that they yearned for. And as a result, that will leave somebody feeling trapped. And that will leave somebody often feeling engulfed. On top of that, a lot of times dismissive avoidants grow up with some degree of enmeshment in their relationships where they feel emotionally responsible in some way for their caregivers, their parents, even their parents' just simply opinions of them. And so this can cause them to feel like, oh my goodness, as soon as they get into relationships, it's just about me showing up in a certain way. And I'm never going to feel like my needs truly get met. And so I need to keep people at arm's length. Otherwise, I'm going to lose myself as a whole. Now, the reality behind this is that dismissive avoidance will become securely attached as they learn to co-regulate, as they learn to actually express what they truly need from other people and actively receive those needs, rather than just think that they are going to be better off by keeping everybody at an emotional distance. Lie number 2, needing somebody or truly being vulnerable around somebody is weak. Now, this is a huge core wound and limiting belief of dismissive avoidance. And unfortunately, it's usually because when they felt vulnerable as children, they didn't get their needs met. And usually they instead got negative reinforcement. So, for example, we might see a dismissive avoidant grow up where when they cried or expressed emotion, it was either ignored, dismissed, deflected, or actively criticized or made fun of. And as a result, dismissive avoidants come to basically associate the vulnerable part of themselves with shame or denial. And so they think, okay, no, I'm never going to go back down that path. I never want to open up in this way because the last thing that I want is to feel weak when I'm vulnerable. And that's all of their conditioning. That's what they've come to believe. And so you can see how in a relationship, this is going to act as a huge barrier between themselves and somebody else because they are literally going to do whatever they can to not show their inner world to somebody. And of course, that means that if you're dating somebody who's dismissive avoidant, you're basically connecting to them through a series of walls they have built. And it can feel like there's this deeper disconnect where you're never getting to know what truly goes on in their internal reality or how to really bridge that gap of connection that you may be yearning for. In fact, something we talk a lot about on this channel is how there are different pillars of connection. There's a romantic pillar of connection. There's a physical pillar of connection. There's an emotional pillar of connection and a mental pillar of connection. And it is very common for dismissive avoidants to feel like the only real pillar they truly feel comfortable and safe in long term is the mental pillar of connection, to the exclusion sometimes of all of those other pillars, which again, you can see how it shows up and often manifests in a relationship dynamic. But those are things dismissive avoidants need to work on and work through in order to heal. And it's a big part of them becoming securely attached. Number 3, a huge lie dismissive avoidants tell themselves is I'm better off alone, or I'm just not built for relationships. In fact, I've heard so many dismissive avoidants when I was running my client practice tell me that firsthand. They would often come into the first session or two and be like, hey, I'm here as kind of a last resort, but I don't really think that I'm built for relationships. I don't really think that I'm made for that type of long-term thing. And again, just because you've had painful experiences before, confusing experiences, and that's been replicated out, that can often cause somebody to actually feel an immense sense of confusion. Like if I've never had truly successful, fulfilling experiences with closeness, with vulnerability, with relationships, then I'm just going to write myself off in advance. And believe it or not, dismissive avoidants do this, writing themselves off in advance thing when they're just trying to avoid feeling the pain of the rejection of something not working out. I've had so many dismissive avoidants tell me in personal conversations over the years, things like, well, I just don't want to bother because if I do try and then I get hurt, it's a lot more painful than if I just don't try at all and then get hurt. So they often will literally try to sabotage something in advance as a subconscious strategy for self-protection, but of course that comes with tremendous downsides. Now, before I tell you the next two big ones, I do want to let you know that if you want to learn more about the dismissive avoidance specifically, how they're going to navigate the different stages of a relationship from the dating stage to the honeymoon stage to when you're in the power struggle to the stability or commitment stage. If you want to understand these different stages and how to actually get to that very last stage, the bliss stage, with a dismissive avoidant, or if you are a dismissive avoidant, we actually have this really in-depth course before I tell you the next two big lies here, all about the dismissive avoidant in the 6 stages. The big things that are going to come up, the problems, how to address those things in advance, or how to literally prevent those problems from arising, and the work that needs to be done as either the dismissive avoidant or the partner to truly move through those things seamlessly and with ease. And you can check this out fully for free for a limited time. And I'll put the link down below. And on top of that, we just do this every so often. We're doing this again now, which is really exciting. On top of that, if you check out the free trial to download that course, on top of that, you get to keep a course for life as well, all about what a secure relationship looks like and how to really thrive in building secure relationships if you're somebody who just didn't have access to that. So literally you get access to both those courses for a limited time down below. Now, the fourth major lie that dismissive avoidants often tell themselves in relationships is intimacy always leads to pain and criticism or shaming. A lot of dismissive avoidants have this deep belief that as soon as there's this commitment, that they are going to end up being put under the gun of somebody nagging them all the time or criticizing them, because a lot of dismissive avoidants end up in relationship dynamics where they're so afraid of interdependency and having somebody lean on them that they kind of keep people at arm's length. But a lot of the result of that is that their partners are going to feel like they're not fully invested. And there's this old saying that behind every criticism is a need. And in this particular case, a lot of dismissive avoidants see themselves in strings of relationships where they're not meeting their partner's needs because, again, they're keeping them at arm's length. And as a result of this, they'll often enter into feeling criticized by their partner. Now, of course, that's on their partner to communicate more clearly and effectively and to use healthy communication strategies that would mirror more of a securely attached person. But as a general rule, you are going to see this be a really meaningful piece of how the dismissive avoidant has to learn to navigate relationships, because it's really painful to believe that intimacy and closeness just always lead to pain and shame. And last but not least, one of the biggest lies dismissive avoidants tend to tell themselves about love is that things are never going to work out long-term anyways, so I shouldn't bother investing. And this usually comes from this fear of always missing out on the next person or the next situation. They kind of have this grass is greener mentality where they'll enter into relationships, then start sort of seeing some of the flaws or challenges in the relationship, and then turn around and be like, oh, I'm missing out on something else, because flaw finding is a huge coping mechanism they use to try to keep this emotional distance and in turn keep themselves safe from feeling disappointed. So these are huge lies dismissive avoidants tell themselves about love. These are things that dismissive avoidants need to work through and work on if you are a dismissive avoidant going through this. And a lot of this comes from learning to co-regulate, from learning to communicate. And if you want to go deeper, as I mentioned before, there's so many specific tools and strategies for how to do this in so much detail in our Dismissive Avoidant in the 6 Stages of Relationships course. So check that out fully for free for a limited time, along with getting to keep that other course for life as well. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure if you did, you subscribe to this channel, you share this video with somebody who could benefit, and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our cool offers. We constantly share free content on here and free courses, and also put daily videos out here so that if you ever need a supportive resource on a specific day or you're just feeling off, this is a support system for you. Thank you for stopping by and for watching, and I'll see you next time.